Hi, in this episode we'll add filters to our ages page. So let's get started. So first of all, we want to be able to search through all ages. So we want to have here some kind of a search field. We type something and we narrow down the list of ages displayed to us. So let's implement this. It's very easy to do in Angular. First of all, let's add this search input field. So we go to ages.html and right here we're going to have div with class form group, and inside of this div we will have input with type search, a name search, and we do not need to have here value because there's going to be an ng model, and we will store this in a model called filter by. So filter by will be an object that will have search string in it because we will have several filters. So we will have here search and class form control. Okay, so let's have a look, and here it is. So now let's introduce this model that we created here in the controller. So we go into controller ages, and right here on the scope, let's define filter by as an object where we have search string as an empty string. So now to add this search functionality, all we need to do is to add filter right after pipe right here in the ng repeat. So when we have here ng repeat start age and ages, and we add pipe here and tell to filter it by our filter by search string. So now if we go back to browser and type it here something, you can see how it narrows down. Great. What's important to remember is searching happens in all fields. So for example, if I want to get combat, you can see that it filters down to combat. Or for example, if I want to have all novices, I search for novices. So maybe that's not the behavior that you want. Maybe we want only to be able to search by names, and other filters will serve us to narrow down by category or by requirements. So again, it's very easy to do in Angular. We just need to surround it by curly braces and specify what attribute we want to filter by. So, for example, name. Now, when we save it and go back to browser and try to type novice, nothing happens because now we actually search by name. That's pretty good for a couple lines of code, isn't it? Okay, so now let's add another filter. So let's say we want to see only background ages or only combat ages. So we want to have here the drop-down list where we select, for example, background, and only background is there. So let's go back, and I'm going to introduce another div with class row. And this one will have class call access3. I'm going to copy it. And the next one is also will be the same thing. And inside of it, I will have the select tag with class form control like this. And also let's close up div, and let's add for both of them, let's add labels. So label for this one is search, and label for this one is category. Let's save it, go back to browser, and you can see now that we have category. But now we need to populate this drop-down list somehow. So let's go back to our controller, and we make very similar thing here. So here we will have categories, and we will use categories service. And let's add it here as well, like this. Now we need to create this service. So I'm going to open service edges and copy this thing. And now in this folder, I'm going to create categories.js, paste it into here. So that's going to be a categories. And this thing will return cat array like this. So basically we have the categories service that will return three types of categories: background, combat, and leadership. And also I want to have another object that will tell us all. So in this case, and that which is selected by default, all categories are selected. So let's save it. Now we need to go back to index.html and add this service as well to the index page categories. So now that we have categories at our disposal, let's populate select with it. So let's go back to edges HTML, and here we have the select. So first of all, let's give it a name, category. And next, we need to bind it to the model. So we will have ng model, and that value of this model will define which element of this select is selected. So it's going to be a filter by category. And the last one is ng options, which will populate select with options. And it's pretty weird syntax. It takes some time to get used to it. But basically, let's start from the end. So we have category in categories. But in categories, as you saw, categories is just an array of objects. So we need to dive deeper and to take the name of it. So to take the name, we do c.name for. So what we're doing, we taking the category name for category in categories array. Let's save it. So now if we go back to browser, you can see that we have all these options populated. So now we want by default that all should be selected. So let's go back. Let's go to our controller edges. And here in filter by, we add category. And to assign category, it takes not a string but an object. So we take this scope categories array and take the first element of it, the first object. So now if we save it and go back to browser, we'll see that by default, all is selected. So now when we select category here, for example, background, we want only background edges to be displayed here. So for that, let's create custom filter. So in HTML file that we have here, we can actually stack filters together. So we can add another pipe here and say edges. And this is going to be the filter name, edges. And we want to provide, as we did here, the filter by object. So what happens, this edges filter will receive edges collection and filter by object, which we will use to return another collection filtered by this filter by object. Okay, so let's save it. And now let's create filter. For that, in app scripts, let's create another folder. We call it filters. And inside of it, file edges.js. And we need to create it. So again, as usual, use strict. We take Angular module, our application, and filter. We call it edges function. And now we need to add this filter to the index page. So let's go to index.html and add here filters, edges. Okay. So now we're ready to implement filter, and let's do it again test first. So let's create new test for our filter. Let's go to test, spec, and inside of here we will create filters, edges.js. Again, make folder for that. And we're going to describe here our edges filter. So as usual, we need to make the before each and load up our module with our application. And then we need to inject to our test this edges filter. An edges filter is just a simple service object. So what we do when we want to inject service object into our test, we set up before each inject function. And then here we specify this service. Filter service is just different in that it has the suffix filter. So we define it as edges, but here we'll do edges filter. And that's all that we need to do. So inside of it, let's sign it up to filter, like this. And we need to define this filter here. So now we're ready to describe our first filter. So we're going to describe category filter that we want to implement first. So now, first of all, we need to have some data. So let's create edges, and that's going to be just an array of, say, 2 edges. and each age will have just a simple category with the name of first, and the second age will have the category with the name of second. Okay, so now we have ages, and we need also a filter by object that has category there with the name of first. Okay, so now we have data. Let's create examples. So the first example is it filters by category name. So basically we have two ages, and when we have in a filter by, we have the category with the name first, only this first, so only one age should be available. So let's test it out. So we expect that filter, which is here, ages filter, and we pass two options to this filter, ages and filter by, and it will return the collection, the array. So we want to make sure that the length of this array to equal 1, because there is only one age with category first. So let's save it. Let's go to terminal and run karma. And of course it fails because undefined is not a function. So let's go back to filter ages, and filter should return function. So we return function, and this function takes, in our case, two parameters, ages and filter by. Okay, so if we go to our ages HTML again, you'll see that we have ages filter, and it takes the collection of ages from here, from ng repeat, and filter by from our parameter here. So the first parameter is provided by ng repeat, and the second parameter provided by us. So let's go back. So now here we can return ages, and we want to filter them. And this filter function takes the callback, which has the element in it, index, and array. So in here we want to return some kind of a comparison. So we want to compare element category name. So we return element category name. So element in this case is the age. So we take the category of the age and its name, and we compare it to the filter by dot category name. Let's save it, go to terminal, and we green. Great. So that's the most basic example. Let's create another one. So the second one is about all. So it returns all elements when category filter is all. So we change filter by category name to all, and after that we expect that filter with edges and filter by length to equal actually 2. So all 2 edges should be returned because category name is all. So if we save it and see, it fails because it returns 0, because it doesn't know what to do with this all variant. So let's go back to implementation. Okay, and to implement it is very easy. We just add very simple condition. So if filter by our category name equals to all, then we simply return edges without any changes, right? So now when we save it, we're back to green. So as you can see, it's very easy to test filters. All we need to do here is inject filter and filter just a simple service with the filter suffix to it. And then you just test it as you would test any other object. So now when we have it, let's have a look in the browser. And you can see that when we change, for example, category to background, it automatically filters it. Combat, combat. How cool is that? And of course, we also can narrow it down by typing something in search, and now we have background brave functionality. Great. So the last thing, and it's kind of an optional, but we'll do it anyway, is to add rank filter. So here is the rank. This novice thing is the rank of the hero. So let's add another drop-down menu for the rank. So let's go back to our HTML, and here I'm going to duplicate this div, and that's gonna be a rank. So here again rank, and in filter by also we will have rank, and here as well, ranks. Okay, so now we need to have this ranks. So let's go back to controller ages. And here in the filter by, we will have rank, which will be the same thing, scope, ranks, and the first element of it. So now here we duplicate, and we want to have ranks as a different service. So let's create this service. In services, I'm gonna open categories and copy it. And now let's create in services, we're gonna create ranks.js, paste it into here. And here I'm gonna add ranks, and it will return all, novice, seasoned, and that's all for now. Okay, next I need to go to index.html and add it here as well as service ranks. So now we need to go back to spec for our filter ages, and here we will have another describe block for rank filter. So basically, let's shift this initial data from this describe to before each right here. And I'm going to remove this vars and just do it right here, edges and filter by. And now here in rank, I want to describe it filters by rank function. So now I need to add to this ages also another thing like requirements that we have in our data model. And that's going to be an array of different requirements. And the first one will be with name null and value novice. And that's going to be mode rank. Another requirement will be something like agility with value of d6. And that's not going to be a rank. That's going to be a trait. So we will have different kind of requirements. And that's very important to make it automatic for character generation process, but not in this course. So what we need to do is we need to get this rank with this value novice and ignore all other requirements. So this is how requirements look like right now. So I'm going to copy it, and here we will have seasoned. So if we go back to our test, we see that they are failing on line 16. I have problems with, okay, that should be comma. Let's save it, go back. And now we're failing because we do not have rank provider. So let's go back to our control ages, ranks, okay, mistype here. Let's go back, and now we back to green, excellent. So that's another way why tests are awesome, because these kind of typos and regressions are very quickly found, and it's quite amazing. So now we're ready to describe our filter by rank. And let's add here filter by, we have the category, and we want to have the rank, which is also will be the object with name, and for now it's going to be a novice. Okay, so filter by rank, basically we expect mostly the same thing like we expected here. So we expect that ages filter by with length to equal 1. But we need to change filter by category name to all, because now we want category all but rank novice. So, and in these examples, quite the opposite. Here we want filter by rank name equal to all. Okay, let's save it, and it should fail, and of course it is. It returns 2, but we expect 1. So let's go to implementation. So what we do here, we will return not this thing, but we will return category and rank. And these two things are going to be booleans. So let's define category, and category will be equal to element dot category name equals to filter by category name, or if filter by category name equals all. Okay, so that's the category. The next one is rank, and rank a little bit more complicated because we actually need to find the rank object into the requirements array. It also returns filter by rank name. If it equals to all, it returns true. And we need to introduce another function, we call it getRank element requirements. So we provide element requirements to getRank, and it iterates through requirements and getting the rank and the value. So these things are obsolete now, and let's define this getRank. So there's a function which takes requirements, and inside of it we have requirement that we want to find, and then we iterate, and if recs requirements with this index mode equals rank, because there could be a lot of other modes like traits, skills, etc., then we want to set this rec to recs with this index and break the loop. So, and by the end, we want to return rec value. So we do not have here the protection from what if there is no requirement like rank and so on, but that's quite enough for now. So now if we go back, we still failing unexpected token. And of course it doesn't work because here we have getRank element requirements and it should be equal to filter by rank name. Let's save it, go back, and now we're green. Excellent. So we could add another example to make sure that filtering works as it should, but I leave it up to you. So, and if we go to browser and try to filter it by rank, voila, we have only novices and we have only seasoned. And for example, if we have novices and we want to have only background, here we are. And we even can search, and that's pretty awesome. So let's commit this change. Filters for ages. Okay, in this episode we saw how to use filters in Angular, and we wrote our own custom one and even tested it. The time has come to implement backend and make sure that everything works with end-to-end tests. So thank you very much for your time and see you in the next episode.